How do you mourn the death of someone you knew? Okay, that's a bit heavy for an opener. Let me try and set the scene for you. It was a cold February night. I had just got done making cupcakes for my drama class. We had our first big show the next day, and I wanted to make something to say, "Hey, good job, you survived." I had been in drama for 4 years at that point, and I knew how scared people got when it came to performing in front of a crowd. Plus, I liked making food for people. Seeing other people happy made me happy as well. I was in my room, scrolling through my phone, waiting for the cupcakes to cool so I can put the icing on them. Then, my mom called for me from downstairs. My brother was out at the time, so I figured she just wanted to show me a dumb Facebook post she saw. That was, until I saw a police officer in our kitchen. I looked at my mom like, "What's going on?" And she told me that the police officer had something serious to tell me. The police officer then began to explain that she came here all the way from Quebec to tell me that my father died. That's right. The man I hated for so long was now dead. The cause? Suicide. How do you mourn the death of someone you knew? Well, let's reword that question a little bit. How do you mourn the death of someone you hated? At first, I was more shocked than anything else. I mean, suicide? Really? The man was an egomaniac who only cared about himself. How could someone like him take his own life? The officer explained that this was no joke. My father had left a note and everything. We weren't told the specifics of what was said in the note, but what the police did know was that the note was for my father's brother. After that, the brother instructed the police to tell me and my brother, since we still have my father's last name. My brother came in as the officer was describing this to me. He looked just as shocked as I was, just as lost as I was. None of this felt right. Was this really happening? Was I in some crazed dream my mind conjured up out of sheer boredom? Was I living in some alternate reality and I just didn't know it? The officer left once she brought my brother up to speed with what was going on, and I just went back to my room. I didn't know what to say, how to react, how to feel. The next day was where everything finally set in for me. I went to school and got ready for my drama performance. We would be performing in front of a few classes. The entire time, I felt like I was being watched. I kept looking around, trying to find this invisible force that made me feel like I was suffocating, but I never found it. Once it was my team's turn, we got up on stage and got into position. I remember telling myself, this is the most important performance of your life. Not because I cared about the mark, but because I knew I had to convince everyone, my peers, my teacher, the audience, that I was completely fine. Once all the performances were done, I showed everyone the cupcakes I made for them. They all looked so happy. Some people went in and got seconds. However, the positive feeling of making food for someone didn't happen this time. All I felt was empty. I decided to skip school after the performance. My stepdad picked me up and brought me home. Once we got home, I broke down in my mom's arms. One thing you always ask yourself when someone you know dies from suicide is, why? Why would they decide to do something like that? I hated my father, sure, and I was glad he was dead, but he was still my dad. Old habits die hard, especially when it comes to your parents. You can't help but think about them, even when you really shouldn't. I kept asking that question over and over in my mom's arms. So many emotions were swirling around in my dumb teenage head. Sadness, confusion, anger. My mom cut her workday short and told me to grab my coat because she was going to take me shopping. Bless my mom's heart, she knew exactly what would make me feel better. Shopping and a lot of food. As we were shopping, I came across a store with black walls and punk rock music filling the venue. That's right, baby, it was Hot Topic, the store for my people! I looked around for a little bit, glancing at overpriced t-shirts and pants, when I noticed a few books and manga on display. One of them I vaguely recognized. The name was Spy Family, the first volume. I had heard of the manga through passing, since the anime was airing around that time and had been critically acclaimed among anime fans. I didn't know much about it, but it looked interesting. For the first time that day, something prickled in my chest. It wasn't the downright suicidal despair I was slowly getting accustomed to. It was intrigue, curiosity. My mom saw my interest and decided to buy the book for me. I hadn't bought anything yet, despite the various types of stores available in the mall, but for some reason, this manga stood out to me. And so I started to read it. And this series, in no uncertain terms, saved my life. Spy Family follows the story of Lloyd Forger, codenamed Twilight. A well-renowned spy known for kicking ass and taking names, he now had a new mission to accomplish. He has to get in contact with Donovan Desmond, the leader of a political party in Estonia. If not, the two opposing countries, Westalis and Estonia, might end up causing another war with each other. Along with that, Donovan is a known recluse, so Lloyd believes that the best way to get in contact with Donovan is to get close with his son, Damien Desmond. So, Lloyd assembles a fake family in order to get in contact with Damien. There's Yor, Lloyd's pretend wife, who's an assassin as well as a complete dork, and Anya, who is a telepath and the cutest little thing in existence. Look at her silly little face. I just want to squish it. Anyway, the series is mainly a slice of life, with each story thread being mostly episodic. However, the central focus of the story is stopping the war between Westalis and Estonia. Despite the vibes being mostly goofy and lighthearted, there are a few times where the story gets dark. For example, there's a point in the story where Anya is trying to get Lloyd not to open a door rigged with explosives. Anya, despite being very young, knows the stakes and desperately wants to keep her newfound family together. This would normally put a lot of burden on a young child, but due to Anya's powers and being able to read minds, alleviates the burden since she knows just about everything. All of these moments where the story gets serious work so well because of the silly, goofy atmosphere, not in spite of it. It makes moments like these hit 10 times harder because now you feel as if there's a chance of losing someone important to the story. Plus, you start to care about the characters even more during these intense scenes. Speaking of which, who are these characters exactly? Like I said before, Lloyd is a spy, and his sole purpose is to finish the mission and not let anyone know of his occupation. Lloyd is a very smart man, and often thinks 5 steps ahead of other people. There's this one point in the story where Lloyd takes Yor out for a nice night on the town, and he explains in his inner thoughts that he planned out 862 ideas for a date to make sure it went well. He claims that it's all for the sake of his mission, but throughout the story, he starts to genuinely care for Anya and Yor, despite his previous misgivings of not wanting to get attached to them. See, Lloyd's own parents died during the war between the two neighboring countries several years ago, which made him want to become a spy. He wanted to make sure no one had to deal with the same grief and pain he had to endure. So, his reason for doing all this is very selfless. It's important to note that even though all his work is for the sake of the mission, he always makes sure to keep Anya and Yor safe and comfortable around him. Not that Yor needs to worry about being safe, though. Yor, if I can speak clearly here, is a complete badass. She's an assassin by night and an office clerk by day. Her codename is Thorn Princess, and she excels at killing criminals, and is stronger than most professional fighters. She's also a complete dork, who doesn't understand social cues at all. She also doesn't know how to be a wife, despite entering this fake marriage with Lloyd, and she's worried that if she doesn't act wifely enough, the police might get on her case and suspect her of trying to betray the Estonian government. This actually happened during the Cold War. Many women were suspected of being spies for the Soviet Union and the American government, especially women who weren't married or didn't do their normally quote-unquote wifely duties. So it makes sense for Yor to be anxious about getting caught. Not only that, but just like Lloyd, she starts to deeply care for her pretend family, and doesn't want to see them get in trouble because of her. Yor's parents also died during the war, which left Yor having to take care of her younger brother Yuri. She became an assassin so she could properly make sure no one would ever hurt the only family left in her life. Both Yor and Lloyd have both lost loved ones during the ongoing war, and their reasons for being spies and assassins have a lot to do with their own personal trauma and baggage. Anya, like Yor and Lloyd, was also burned by the ongoing war between the two nations. Anya was experimented on at a young age by scientists who wanted to use her telepath powers for their own political needs. Anya was then placed into adoption, and every family who adopted her always ended up bringing her back once they found out about her powers. Anya strives to keep her powers a secret from Lloyd and Yor because she's worried about being dumped back into the orphanage if she was ever found out. However, she is also, 5, and due to her age, she sometimes uses her powers to turn situations in her favor.
Now I want this, Mr. Doggy! It's okay, he's big!
You're being difficult!
If you don't let me keep him, then I'm gonna turn fat and stop going to school!
This child is a gremlin. Anya is the rock of this show in terms of keeping the mood light. Because of her age and her naive nature, she's usually the one driving the comedy in most situations. Not to say that Lloyd and Yor aren't funny either, but I found myself laughing the most at Anya and whatever she was doing in each volume. Do you see why I like this manga so much? Reading through Spy Family throughout my own personal battle really helped me put my situation into perspective. I lost a parent, but I had my family to fall back on, even if one of them wasn't blood related. Yor, Lloyd, and Anya may be an unconventional family, but they go through every obstacle together, and even though it was hard, with my loved one's support, I got better. I started therapy to talk about my turbulent relationship with my father. The process wasn't easy, sure, but now I can think about these days without crying or feeling sad. This might sound overdramatic, I don't know. But if I hadn't picked up Spy Family that day, I might have done something I would regret. In a time when I didn't know who I could rely on, Spy Family made it clear for me. I can rely on my family. Blood doesn't matter. Love does.